Hi guys, back again. Um, Sorry, the last one actually cut out a bit quick, so I'm just going to go back. So that we were talking about dairy. Last thing I wanted to say was when we're purchasing cheese, it does spoil quite rapidly, but there are certain cheeses that do last longer than others. So firm, hard cheeses. So let's highlight Parmesan. Gruyere have a longer shelf life than soft cheeses such as cottage, ricotta, and feta. So in your fridge at home, if you get cottage cheese or ricotta cheese, which is your really soft, um, like you can't pick up ricotta without it mushing in your hand, um, they go off really quick. They get moldy really quickly. You can't speak, Dad, because I'm doing a video. And as opposed to Gruyere and Parmesan, which are hard cheeses, and they last literally weeks and weeks in the fridge. So a lot of restaurants order a lot of Parmesan and they flavor soups and stocks with Parmesan cheese and don't use as much ricotta and feta unless it's ready to use. Okay, let's move on to storing and handling shellfish. Right now, before we even start, in this room we have up the top, in your header, I want you to write down as many possible shellfish you can think of. Shellfish only. So these are seafoods that are in shells. And I recommend you pause the video now while you do that. Pause. Press pause now. Okay, so we should have come up with some things like crab, lobster. Let's have a look at some pictures here. Oh, it's a fish fridge, sorry. Shellfish. So we should have had mussels, scallops, lobster, prawns, crab, all those sort of things. You can eat clam. Anyone that's been to the States might have had clam chowder. It's really yummy. Or in you know, in The Devil Wears Prada, when she goes down and she for lunch and they're all getting like salads and stuff and she gets clam chowder and the guy behind her, you know, that guy that's like plays a gay guy and everything, he says to her, clam chowder. You know, cellulite is the main ingredient in clam chowder. Does anyone remember that? Anyway, moving on. Let's read. Fish and shellfish have a short life due to rapid deterioration of their flesh after they are caught. So as soon as fish are caught, there is rapid deterioration of their flesh. Correct storage is essential to provide high quality dishes to the customer. Fish should always be stored in the fridge, always. In a fish fridge if possible. I'm going to show you a fish fridge. On work placement, you might see some of these. They're usually fridges like this, and they just have drawers. And they usually store a whole lot of seafood in those. Now, the difference between a normal fridge and a fish fridge is a fish fridge is usually kept at between 0 and 1 degrees. So they have a, well, that's it. Like there's a 1 degree variance there, so that they can't go up to 4. It's between 0 and 1. Where was I? Oh, it says it here. Very good. Kept in the coldest part of the cool room at a temperature of 1 degrees. Very few refrigerators can achieve a low temperature, so it's usually necessary to store fish on crushed ice. Can we highlight store fridge on crushed ice? At Christmas, we have prawns every year. I don't know what you guys do, but I'm sure some of you will be able to relate to this. So when you get prawns, you put it on the table. Does mum or dad often serve it on a big in a big bowl that's got all ice at the bottom? I assume yes, hopefully. If they don't, they should. That ice really makes sure that those prawns stay nice and fresh, and they keep it at that 1 degree level throughout the time that you're eating them. Certainly, anyone who's ever been to a buffet like the buffet at Star City, they always have heaps of prawns, and they're always on ice. Now let's look at fish. Cleaned fish fillets and cutlets should be kept on crushed ice on a perforated, I hate saying this word, perforated tray set onto another tray to allow for drainage. So you've got the fish, You got crushed ice, and then you've got a perforated tray, so a tray with holes in it, which has another tray underneath. So all of the fishy juices they'll go through the ice, through the holes, into the bottom. The last thing we want is for our fish to soak in its own yucky, fishy, slimy juices, because those juices are high in bacteria, and they will just help that deterioration of the flesh, and we don't want that. It's also, oh, here we go. It's best to have a layer of plastic between fish and ice. Okay, there we go. Ungutted fish, oh, should be scaled, gutted, and washed thoroughly. Highlight scaled, gutted, and washed thoroughly. Then sorted as above. Live fish can be kept for a short period of time in freshwater, saltwater tanks. The tanks of water should be always kept in the best condition. I'll tell you a quick story. When I was, Mum and I went to see like a musical in the city, and afterwards we went to one of the restaurants in Chinatown, and we ordered the salt and pepper mud crab, and my heart nearly broke when this Chinese guy brought a massive live mud crab to my table, and its legs were all moving around, and he put it on the table and he said, "Okay, okay." And I just looked at him like I didn't know what the hell he was talking about. And Mum said, "He's asking you if you're okay with the price for that size." And the price, it was $99 for bloody crab. But anyway, I guess that's how much they cost. Um, and I looked at her with these sad eyes, and she said, "Yeah, it's okay, it's okay." And he walked away. And I said, "Why did he do that?" She said, "Because it's very expensive and they need to make sure you're going to be okay with it before they cook it, and then you send it back." And I looked at her and she said, "You don't want to eat it now, do you?" And I didn't want to eat it because he just brought it to me. She just brought it to me on the table, and it was all alive, and now I'm gonna eat it. And I thought, oh, I would have eaten it, but I mean, I ate it, but that was just so sad. I felt like, oh my gosh, now I'm responsible for killing the crab. Anyway, and then I kept thinking, oh, what if I had like family in the tank and anyway, moving on. So shellfish, so that's like the crab I was just talking about, should be stored at 1 degrees. Live, oh, here we go with the live lobsters, crabs, yabbies can be kept in a refrigerator. Oh, okay, so you can actually keep live lobsters, crabs, and yabbies in a fridge in a box covered with wet hessian, which is like a netty sort of fabric. Um, so they don't even get to be in water. That's sad. Okay, let's move on. Freezer storage for seafood. As the saying goes, frozen fish and shellfish are never as good as fresh. So that's very true. Fresh is always best, but in the hospitality industry, fresh does not always happen, particularly any suburbs that are far away from the coast. It's almost impossible to have fresh. It's going to take half the day to get to your restaurant in a van, so it's almost impossible to have that done in one day. So often frozen has to happen. However, if it must be frozen, here's the guidelines. So this is for freezing. They should be stored at -18. That's our temp. -18 to -24. I'm going to do that in another color. We need to remember that. Our freezers are set to -18 to -24. Here it is again. Anyone who goes home and has some ice cream out of their freezer, and it's super duper easy to scoop out your ice cream, you don't have to ask dad to do it, or I mean, boys, you can probably do it yourself, but I don't know, I always ask my dad to scoop out my ice cream. um, yeah, if it's super easy and you don't have to put much muscles into it, your freezer's probably too warm. So there's been a study done, and it turned out that something like 70% of Australians keep their fridge lower than 18 degrees, at lower than -18 degrees. And the reasons they gave for that was because it's too hard for the kids to scoop out the ice cream. So yeah, That's just a fact. However, in the hospitality industry, if we don't have it between 18 and -18 and -24, we're in big trouble from the food inspectors. So it really needs to be kept that way, because at those temperatures, the bacteria stops growing. It goes to a halt, which means you can take some meat out of the freezer and it will start multiplying again, the bacteria, but it will start multiplying again from the date you put it in there. So expiry dates don't matter once it's in the freezer. Whole fish fillets, cutlets should be wrapped well in plastic, excluding as much air as possible, or vacuum packed. So I'll show you what that looks like. So vacuum packaging, you might have seen that before, is where the meat is literally put between these two bits of plastic. There's a little special machine, kind of looks like a little mini laminator machine, and it sucks out all the air so that it's completely airtight. No air is in that at all. That keeps it super duper fresh and is perfect for freezing because it prevents freezer burn. So freezer burn occurs when air can get into the plastic, and it actually deteriorates the meat. I'll show you what it looks like. Do we have a picture of meat? Yeah, okay. Freezer burn. So you might have seen frosty meat like this before. When freezer burn really affects the meat, it actually discolors it. So that raw meat should be nice and red and pink, and freezer burn meat will turn brown because brown discolors the meat. It looks cooked, but I promise you it's not. Okay. Fish and cutlets can also be frozen in layers, plastic wrap. Okay, so we've got to remember layers. We always, if we're putting fish in the freezer, it needs to be in layers. We can't just put fish on top of fish on, I'm using my hands again. You can't just put each fish on top of each other and then wrap them all in plastic. They need to be individually wrapped in plastic. Lobsters, crabs, yabbies, and such can be frozen or cooked in plastic wrap, excluding much as vacuum packed. All frozen items will be labeled and dated. That's really important because while I said that bacteria will stop growing, it's still you still can't keep something in the freezer forever. So certain things might say, okay, yeah, 1 month in the freezer is okay. 2 months, 5 months, 6 months is usually the maximum for things in the freezer. So it does need to be labeled and dated. But if you're keeping things only there in a few weeks, you don't need to worry too much about if it's still okay to use. It's definitely okay to use, and the bacteria is definitely nice and safe. So I'm going to stop there for freezer, but I really want you to take note, and I mean, we're going to be writing study notes soon, so everything that talks about temperatures for storing and little rules. So there could be an exam question that literally says, describe procedures for safe storage of fish and shellfish. For that question, you need to know majority of that. It's not very much, it's like just over half a page of information. You need to know most of that. So you'll need to know about fish at 1 degree, and you'll need to know about fish fridges. You'll need to know about scaling and gutting, how that needs to be done first. You should be able to say things about the perforated tray for drainage. You need to you talking about air packaging, vacuum packaging, sorry. Um, um, yeah, all of that sort of stuff. The difference of shelf life. So you can say, fish and shelf life, the rapid deterioration of their flesh. You should say something about how it's best, fresh is best. So fish can be caught in the morning and brought to the restaurant that day and served fresh. That's always best. If it does need to be frozen, these are the things that you should follow. So we really do need to be able to recall on some of this stuff. So I'm going to stop there, and then I'm going to talk about meat in a moment. Thanks, guys. Bye.